Hey, I'm happy to get started. We can see that we're being recorded just for everybody's information, and I have the honor of welcoming everybody. So good morning, happy Saturday here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Welcome from wherever you may be. I'm Bob Benham, a buyer's agent with the Ihara team of Keller Williams, Honolulu, and I'm joined today by Carrie Scoville, our client care manager, and uh, and our resident host and expert and today's lead speaker, Dan Ihara. Dan, CEO of the Ihara team. And our topic for this seminar is the top 10 things you want to know before you buy here in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. And so just a brief background for people who may not know, the Ihara team has been in business for over 15 years now. CEO Dan, one of the leading realtors in the state of Hawaii. In fact, he's kind of modest. He might not tell you this, but he's been among the top 100 realtors out of a total of 7,000 realtors in the state of Hawaii for the last 13 years running. And as a team, the Ihara team is very proud to say that we've been able to help over 1,100 families achieve their real estate goals over the years, and that's 13 years of business. So obviously a record of success among the team. I'm happy to be on the team since last year, and I know my teammates feel similarly. So welcome. We're glad to have you, and feel free, as you can see, we're on Zoom, so if you're familiar with it, and or if you're not, just take a quick look at the bottom of your screen, and you'll notice some icons down there. We have the chat room that's open. Feel free to submit your questions, and one of us will catch your questions and make sure that we roll those onto Dan. I see Carrie is talking about Roll Tide. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. And, yeah, so let's get started, Dan.
Yeah, all right.
First question up is that a lot of buyers, when they enter into the process, right, the first thing they're going to need to know is how much can they afford. Now, how do you talk to your clients about answering that question?
Well, it's really interesting, Bob, because what we're finding today is we're at historically low interest rates, right? Historically low. Take a look at this chart. I mean, back in when I graduated high school, we were paying 18% interest to buy a home. That's outrageous considering today's market where we're under 3%. We had a client the other week that locked in at 2.5%. Unbelievable low cost of money. And what that does is it allows you to create leverage, right? This is how people build wealth through real estate, is leveraging the low cost of the money.
So look at
and
this.
what happens is, if the rates go up, which they will, right? I mean, obviously it'll go up at some point, but let's just say today it was 2.85, which I believe is true. And the rates go up just 1%. A 1% rise of interest rate from 2.85% to 3.85%, you would now lose 11.8% of buying power. For example, in this case, we're looking at a $500,000 property, putting 20% down. Now, most people consider keeping the payments the same because that's usually what we gauge as far as our ability to repay the loan, right? Based on our income and our expenses. So we like to keep the payments similar usually. And then what happens is if the rates go up, now you've lost $59,000 of buying power. Like, I don't know how long it takes most of you folks to save $59,000, but that's an incredible difference of what 1% can do. What that means is people are going to really want to get pre-approved as soon as possible to take advantage of this low cost of borrowing the money, right? And that's why the market is so crazy hot right now. Real Akamai buyers are looking at the interest rates and saying the same thing. I can buy more today than I can tomorrow when the rates go up.
So Dan, just before you go on to this next one, I've had some clients tell me, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer because those rates may jump down. So how do you advise people who have that feeling right now?
I think what we want to do is take a look at history, because history has a tendency of repeating itself. We haven't seen rates this low in our lifetime. Honestly, we have not seen these rates so low. how is it going to get much lower? If it does, it's not going to get that much lower. It can't, right? We're under 3%. And let me take you back to this chart again, because it wasn't until, I believe it was 06, I believe it was, that it actually dipped under the 6% mark, right? So imagine that. That's twice of what it is today. But historically, when did it ever get below that? It didn't. And so now we're at extremely low interest rates. Yes, it might dip, maybe a tenth of a point at most, but the chance of it rising over time is significant. Right now, I think we're going to be okay this year and probably even next year. So don't get me wrong; it's not going to shoot up tomorrow. I don't believe, though. Who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen with the presidential election? Who knows what's going to happen with the tax laws? We don't know what's going to happen to interest rates. We expect them to stay fairly good though for a while.
So I guess
the things you want to do.
I guess you said you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, do you?
Yeah, I had one. It broke on the way to that last seminar, and I could never find another one, Bob.
What's it going to take? What's it going to take a buyer to get themselves pre-qualified?
It's really not that hard. You're going to need your tax returns, your W-2s, at least 2 years worth of everything, 2 months of bank statements, and then 3 of the most recent pay stubs. So we can start gathering that information now, keep it on the side for when you're ready to get pre-approved. Or if you are ready to pre-approve, then we'd want to send that to our lender just to make sure that you're comfortable with the monthly payment. Right? Based on how much down you put will determine what you're going to be able to afford given today's low interest rates. And that's the goal, is to get our clients comfortable with that's going to look like and not push too high up, but yet don't miss out on the property they could buy because they thought they couldn't qualify, but they do. I don't know about you, Bob, but out of the 6 homes that we bought, I kind of pushed the limit each time. Each time I went to the lender, I asked them to get me the maximum, and we were able to upsize our assets over the years, right? And that's what a lot of folks are doing today.
Gotcha. So number 2 is the second second question we want to know about. Buyers have a lot of choices in terms of location on Oahu. And so how do we decide where we want to live?
Well, it's much easier if you're born and raised here, right? Like we are, that we know the market, we know the differences. Interestingly enough, 15 years in being real estate, I'm still learning the market, okay? There's always something new to learn about a small micro community that you didn't really think about or see. But generally speaking, most people make this decision based on commute, traffic time, right? So what we find is out in Mililani, we see a lot of military, right? Military because why? Schofield Barracks is there, right? It's convenient, it's close, there's very little traffic. When you look at the people who are going to the hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, the physicians, those folks, most of those hospitals are in town, and most of them will actually live in town, right? If they work in downtown, now keep in mind, if you're living in downtown and moving from Ewa Beach all the way into town, well, today with COVID, there's not much traffic, right? But once all this is over with and people get back to their normal lives as far as getting back to work and the traffic, the other thing that impacts traffic, Bob, schools, right? Most of the private schools are in town, right? And then University of Hawaii, the largest school that we have, is in town. So all that traffic's coming into town. Keep in mind that you're going to have a commute that you're going to have to deal with. So when people talk about where they want to live, one of the areas to consider is commute, right? How much time you want to be on the road. The other is keep in mind that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if you have to go east every day and you're on the west side of the island, you're going to be facing the sun both directions, right? And prior to COVID, that could be an hour each direction, right? So know that those are things that you're going to want to consider. The other things to consider is on our island, we have valleys and ridges, right? So if you live up on a ridge, obviously you might have a chance for a view, but what also happens is the air will be cooler, right? A wise guy, a pilot actually told me, Bob, that you go 1,000 vertical feet, you get cooler by about 5 degrees, right? So it's a big temperature change. For example, Eva Beach versus Makakilo, right? Makakilo is over 1,000 square vertical feet. So it's much cooler up there. So it just depends what you're looking for. If you like a little bit more cooler and damp, Windward side is often interesting, right, for many folks. If you're looking for drier portions of the Windward side, then it's Kailua Beach side because it's farther from the Ko'olau Mountains. So the closer you are to the Ko'olau Mountains, obviously the more rain and the more cool it'll be. So little things like that regarding location. So it's commute typically, temperature, and also how they want to spend their time, their recreation, right? When you leave your home, where are you going to go, right? That's the basic question you want to ask yourself. Your activities for your kids or for church or for work or for visiting family, all those things are going to come in to help you make that decision on location. The other thing that's going to help you make a decision on location is pricing, right? You're going to find that the east of Oahu is going to be more expensive than further west, right? You'll find that Kailua Beach will be more expensive than Kaneohe Town, right? So there's different segments of the market that will change based on those variables, temperature, commute, and pricing. Right? So those are the main areas when people are saying, where should I live? In particular, if they're coming to Oahu and not have lived here before or hasn't been here in a while. Okay?
Those are great insights, Dan. And local knowledge is so helpful in trying to sort out the options available to buyers on Oahu. Thanks for sharing that. Tell us more about the considerations and location.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, lifestyle. One of our clients said, well, they want their kids to go to a private school, so they considered either Kailua or Kahala, and which one's closer, right? They were considering both, and knowing that there's a commute time, helps people make their decisions. And even temperature. Now, some people are allergic, right? If they have allergies, you don't want to be in the back of the valley, right? Because there's more chance of mold and mildew, right, arising. More things in the air that could impact. So people with allergies, they like to be in the drier areas. For example, Ewa Beach, Kapolei, farther away from the mountains, right? Farther away. Also remember that we have predominant trade winds, which go from the northeast to southwest, right? And that's what's going to drive the wind, but it also will drive the cool air in that direction. If you're thinking of a condo, here is a true story about when I graduated high school. I was really excited. I went to University of Hawaii and I got my first condo. And my first condo was on the side of a freeway. And I thought it was the greatest deal. It was $500 for a 2-bedroom. I thought, man, I am a genius, right? I found the best deal. I get there, I open the windows, I unpack my things, I come back after my second trip. I go, what's all this stuff on my bed? This is black stuff. I don't know what that is. I just dust it off. I just didn't even think about it. I come back from my third trip. Hey, that stuff came back again. I look in the windows, the jealousies, the freeway is like right there. All the soot from the freeway flew into the room. You couldn't ever open the window. So know that if you're buying near the freeway, you want to be Mauka of the freeway versus Makai of the freeway or Oceanside, right? Because that's where the air and the road grime will flow to. Also, the noise flows that direction. Yeah, makes a big difference.
Gotcha. So number 3 here, Dan. So the buyer out there today, they've got a number of choices and what type of home to buy. So tell us how that looks on Oahu.
A lot of it's going to be contingent on their price range, right? If they're under probably $600,000 range, you're probably going to look at a condo or maybe a townhouse out on the west side. If they're in excess of 800 and up, maybe $1 million and up, then all of these choices come available, right? So number one, price is the first contingent factor. The other is really how much space you want, right? So condo, what's good about the condo is that you have very low maintenance, meaning you don't have to worry about the yard and the leaves and the gutters and the roof and all that kind of stuff. You do have maintenance fees. Now, some people who look at condos think, well, I don't want to buy a condo because they got maintenance fees. Well, later on, we're going to talk about there's these fees on a single family home too. It just doesn't come every monthly. Right? It comes in bigger chunks over time. Right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you look at condos and townhouses, again, depends on the location where you're looking. There are some really nice townhouses here on the east side of the island, as well as the west side of the island. Right in the core of Honolulu, mostly towers, right? Condominiums. And single families around the entire island. But what is interesting is that some people, I mean, we have buyers for each of these categories, right, Bob? We have clients for every single one of these categories. And they make that decision based on usually price, then location, and then the kind of lifestyle they want to live with. Meaning, we have a lot of downsizers that are leaving their home and moving to a condo because they can just lock the door and leave for a month or two and not have to worry about the house. Right? That's a huge value because you never want to leave a house vacant for a month or so, but it's not too bad closing the door on a condo. Right? You can let the resident manager know you're going to be gone, but it's just a lot safer. So if you know you're going to be gone for a long time, then a condo actually seems to be more appealing to these folks, right? When it comes to a condo to a townhouse, the biggest difference between the two is there's a little bit more space, a little bit more less density, meaning less people. And sometimes you'll have a lanai and or a yard to do things in. Right? But generally speaking, it's just less density. And then when you get to a single family home, again, much less dense. Now, in regard to the single family homes, different communities have different lot sizes. Right? The smaller the lot size, the higher the density, right? You go to a community that's got 10,000 plus square feet of lots, well, there's less homes there, less people there relative to the communities that have 3,000 square foot lots. So that's going to play a part also. And so there's a lot of things we talk about or we're talking to our clients about these choices that kind of helps guide them through that process.
That's great. Yeah, so many decisions and variables. And now number 4, Dan, here's another issue that I think maybe newer buyers may not have considered, and that is the cost actually to own it, to own that property, or what we're calling the holding cost. And can you explain that in more detail?
Right. Yeah, so every property you own, you'll have property tax, you'll have insurance, and you'll have maintenance fees. Now, in a condo, that comes on a monthly fixed number. Oftentimes, that's going to expect to rise 3 to 5% a year over time to cover increase of costs and the cost of inflation, right? The rise of inflation. So those 3 items will always be there for any property. The maintenance fees on a single-family home, though, they don't show up every month on a low number. If they show up, they'll likely show up infrequently and in larger numbers, right? For example, what if you had to change your water and sewer line, right? Say in a condo, you don't have to worry about that. Townhouse, you don't have to worry about that as long as it's outside of your unit. But in a single-family home, yeah, you're going to be responsible for that. But there's also a water and sewer fee, right? Board of Water Supply fee that you'd be paying the water and sewer for. And then electricity, obviously. Now, for those homes that have photovoltaic, that can be as low as $28 a month. Okay? It just depends if it has photovoltaic or not. In general, though, you're going to have water sewer fees, you're going to have electricity fees, you're going to have cable and internet, which is not that expensive. And sometimes you'll have gas, right? So gas would power typically the water heater and or the washer and dryer and stove. Those are the 3 items that it typically covers and powers. So just knowing that when you have a home, even though there's no fixed monthly maintenance fee, there are fees that do come in monthly, but they're independent of each other. They're not bundled to one number, right? So you're going to get a bill from the Board of Water Supply, Hawaiian Electric Company, Spectrum or Cable, and Gasco. So you'll have 4 different costs there that will come in, and you're going to be responsible for that. Um, Things that'll add to the cost of a home, air conditioning, right? The power, the amount of electricity you use. Um, Swimming pools. Swimming pools also add a good amount of cost to your electricity bill, as well as maintenance, right? Those are the biggest items, I think, Bob, that we got to make sure our clients are aware of. That when you buy this home, although you love looking at the pool, know that there's a cost to look at that pool. Essentially.
No doubt. No doubt. And I think it's critical to have a great understanding of what these costs will be in the future for buyers who may look at a mortgage proposal and see, a principal and interest laid out. They may see some taxes and insurance, and they're thinking that's going to be their monthly outlay without fully considering the cost of holding that property. So it's great to understand this. And for those of you that are new at home buying, something that the HARA team can help you sort out with a strategic approach.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a good point. When you're getting a mortgage, there's a thing called PITI, right? Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. All of those are going to be collected by the mortgagor, right? The person who's lending you money. And that's what you're going to be paying them directly, because the lender will not allow you to default on your insurance and your taxes, because then there will be a lien on the property, and the lender can't have that. So they're going to collect that up front. Yeah, they're going to collect it every month. Cool.
All right. All right, number 5. So in looking at the home holistically, Dan, let's describe the major assets of any given home.
Yeah, when we look at that, Bob, we look at the things that cost the most money, right? If something were to go wrong, what are the most expensive items, right? So number 1 is the roof, right? It sits on top of the house, obviously. Those can last 10, 20, 30 years maybe. Those will cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 depending on what kind of roof, asphalt, shingle. You can get up to $50,000 to $100,000 roofs to standing seam. They're really inexpensive, nice ones. So it can vary based on your desire of the type of roof you want, the look you want, the durability you want. Many of the homes in town are asphalt shingle. Those are easy to install. It's also easy to lay over as well. When it comes to electrical, the power has to come from the street to the house. Okay, so that's one segment. So you got to bring line into the house. It's either 100 amp or 200 amp, right? Most homes 100 amp will be okay, but if you have a swimming pool and a lot of AC, you probably want to just bring in 200 amp. Right? Believe it or not, there's not much cost in the wire itself from 100 to 200 amp. It's very nominal, right? So if you're going to bring new power to the house, I'd always recommend 200 amp. You're going to have more than you'll ever need, just in case you want to add things to the house at some future point. Now, that's the electro that comes to the house. Then it comes down to the main shutoff box and then a distribution panel, right? What you're looking on in the photo on the right above our logo, is a clean distribution panel. That's what it should look like, right? And what happens is our inspector pulls, you don't actually, when you open your door, you won't see this because there's a panel that blocks all the wires that you're seeing today. We're showing this to you because this is what you want to do, is pull that panel off, unscrew it, and then you can see the circuit breakers. Our inspector tests for heat, overheating, right, because that can cause a fire. Double tapping or pigtailing, where they put 2 lines into one, which isn't preferred, but possible. So those are the kind of things that we want to consider. So then you get to the electrical panel. You've got the meter and the electrical panel. Then you've got the outlets and switches. So keep in mind, a lot of these older homes have what they call 2-prong electrical, which means it does not have a grounded wire, right? And many of the items today, for example, power surge protectors, they're all 3-prong, right? That's because it's protecting your electrical equipment. So know that if you're buying a home with a 2-prong, you're going to probably want to budget to change that out. Now, if you change that out, you're going to likely change everything all the way to the street. You can just change the outlet in temporarily, but I don't recommend that because, again, that could be a fire hazard. But if you change that outlet, to a three-prong outlet, but it's not grounded. That's what we call false grounding. Okay, it's not grounded. It looks like it's okay, but it's not. So there's a little tester that we carry. It's a three-prong tester to test every outlet to make sure that it's wired properly. And that's something that you want to kind of keep in mind. Those are kind of important items. There is one distribution panel, Bob, that was built, I think, in the late 60s, early 70s. It's called Federal Pacific. And those inspectors have, in fact, all of them that I've seen, said that that's a fire hazard. And they're going to recommend that being changed out. That's the only one that I know of that has that kind of significant challenges with, or at least what the inspectors are telling us. Plumbing, keep in mind on plumbing, there's two components of plumbing, right? You have a water supply line and then a waste line. So when people generalize plumbing, it's a little concerning because I always got to ask the question, is this a water supply line or a waste line problem? Okay. So your water supply line comes in from the Board of Water Supply from the street, and it comes to the house. Now, when it comes to the house, you have a shutoff valve. You have the water meter in the street. You got a shutoff valve to shut off all the main power of water to the house, right? And then it's going to get into the home. These older homes, they were built with galvanized plumbing, which is something you're going to want to plan to replace to copper. Some of these newer homes, they call it a PEX system. It's a plastic lining system they use. But most of them use copper, right? And that's the preferred method of water supply is copper versus galvanized. So that's another main area. I have actually seen galvanized plumbing that the house has been abandoned for a couple months. When you turn the water around, the water coming out is brown. It's brown because it's shooting all the rust that's on the inside of galvanized pipe out. Okay, so that's what happens or could happen on older plumbing. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to the waste line, that's the waste that when you run the water, flush the toilet, take a shower, that water goes somewhere. Well, that goes to the street, to the sewer lateral. So it comes out of your plumbing to the P-traps underneath the ground. Typically, it goes into the sewer lateral, the lateral that crosses the street, right? Goes down to the street. And these older homes had cast iron. Now, cast iron lasts a long time, probably about 40 years or so. So when we look at homes that are over 50 years old, we strongly recommend doing a waste line scoping. So it's like a colonoscopy. It goes through the line. It checks the integrity of the line. Today's technology, though, before and back in the day when I first started doing this, they'd actually have to dig that line out and replace it. Today, they don't have to. Today, there's a lining system that they put epoxy in there that with a balloon in it fills up the space. So it kind of creates another seal and another pipe within the pipe. So there's ways around those things, but you do want to know what you're buying, and proper due diligence will help you with that. And then foundation is really important, right? So simply put, there's two types of foundation. One is slab on grade, where the concrete is on the dirt, right? That's called slab on grade. The other is called post and pier, where you have dirt, you've got a concrete block, we call it a tofu block, and you got a metal shielding over that, then you have a wooden post that goes up. That's called post and pier. The reason why many homes are built with post and pier is because many of our valleys have adobe soil. Whenever you have adobe soil, what happens is adobe soil has components where it expands when it gets wet and contracts when it gets dry. So based on the season, summertime it gets dry. So the land is contracting, and then so the soil is moving. When the water comes and it gets wet, it expands. So it expands and contracts. And the post and pier method, I'm told, was really designed to allow people to adjust the height of their house, okay, so that it can stay level, right? If it was on a slab, what happens if the soil moves, then that slab's going to crack, right? And that's going to be problematic. Actually, I just saw this, Bob, yesterday. We own a property in Texas, and our property had significant settlement issues in Texas. And in fact, two sides of the house, you can say significant settlement, because in most of Texas, a lot of areas in Texas, there's adobe soil. And that's actually very common in those areas. So keep in mind, foundation matters. We definitely want to take a closer look at the foundation because it is a major asset of the home that could be expensive to fix or maybe not that expensive.
Great stuff, Dan. Hey, we're at about the halfway point of our webinar today. I want to just take a quick pause here, Dan, give you a chance to get a swig of water and acknowledge a few people here. You know, we've got Kerry Scoville on hand. He's our client care manager. And Kerry, if I could ask you to, at some point, if you don't mind sharing our Ihara Team Hawaii website, maybe in the chat room, as well as our phone number, because I know people may have questions after the fact. We are videotaping this live event here. If you are with us live, we want to thank you once again Saturday morning here in Honolulu. Feel free to submit your questions on chat, but if same for Facebook. But if you're watching a videotape recording, again, feel free to call our phone number. We've got a lot of agents on hand who have been well trained by Dan in understanding all of the factors involved in this process. So great resources coming your way, guys. We're going to get going on the second half right now. So Dan,
thanks, Bob.
Looking at, yeah, no worries. Great stuff for potential buyers. Let's talk a little bit about improvements to consider in a home.
Yeah, you know, a wise man once told me that the best investment is where you buy the ugliest house in the best neighborhood. The ugliest house in the best neighborhood. The reason for that is we can change the house, we can't change the neighborhood, right? So you don't want to buy a really pretty house in a bad neighborhood, right? Because that's not going to work well because you can't change the neighborhood. So a lot of our clients, they do follow that method of finding the house that's in the area they want, and then they say, okay, now what's it going to cost to remedy? Now, we have contractors that help with this. We have a team of people that can help improve the condition of the property pretty much on anything. So we do buy and flips and buy and holds. We do a lot of investment work, and we have a lot of vendors that help our clients. So we have a couple of vendors that are handling 5 or 6 different clients at this moment that are bought a home that, again, great neighborhood, but you know, house needed to be kind of gutted in a sense. So what can be done? Well, you know, kitchens, bath, paint, flooring, windows, appliances, all that's really easy to do, believe it or not. What we do is we go in and we figure out what we want to have done, and we get an estimate for it. And if you can get the right neighborhood and the right lot, over time you can change that. For example, when we bought our, not the house we're in today, but the house we had in Nuuanu, we bought it because of the neighborhood. Now, it was an old original house. What did we do? Well, we saved some money. We moved in. We lived in it the way it was, but we had a plan to renovate the kitchen. So we did. We gutted the kitchen. We made it beautiful. And then the next phase was our boys got bigger, so they needed space to play around. So we built a game room in the back. About a 500 square foot game room just to play in. And so those are the kind of things you can do. Once you get the right lot, you can then really decide on what are the things that I want to do that can help me.
Okay, great, Dan. So number 6 on our list is taking into consideration the condition of a particular property before you buy it and understanding what that means relative to the purchase price. So help us understand the relationship there between condition and the cost to renovate.
Yeah, usually it starts with how much we can afford, right? That's going to start with the price of the home. So based on the price of the home, let's say you have a range of, let's say, 500 to 700,000. You know, you're comfortable. You're more comfortable at 5, but you can make it happen at 7. Okay. All right. So know that the higher the price goes, typically the better the condition goes in the same neighborhood, right? Keeping the neighborhood the same. As price increases, the cost to renovate decreases, right? So if you're looking at something that, while I don't like the house, but then you look at the price, hey, the price is low enough for me to maybe put some money into, right? And to maybe improve its condition, right? So this chart was designed because we had to help people understand that there's a direct correlation between price and condition, but also impacts how much it'll cost to renovate, right? How much it'll cost to renovate. So that's kind of a very specific property by property analysis that we can go through. Sometimes we do these renovations in phases, like I mentioned on our other house, right? You can plan this out over time because it's really important to understand what your need and what your wants are.
All right, and speaking of that, right into number 7, we know that home buyers have a long list of things that they want in a home, and
Yeah.
let's talk about how do we define those needs and wants.
Well, it's simple as you grab a piece of paper, you put need on one side, you put want on the other side, you draw a line down the middle, and then self-discover what is a need and what is a want, right? It usually starts, again, everything is based on how much you can afford, right? So it always starts with where I top out and price at. So wherever that number is, I'm going to look at that number and say, okay, based on what I can afford, now what do I absolutely need, right? I need to live in a close enough proximity to work, or a close enough proximity to my kids' school, or wherever that is. I want to be closer to mom and dad, whatever that is. Typically, it starts with location. Right? Once we do the location and the price, then we look at, well, how many bedrooms do I absolutely need? And somebody says, well, I need 5 bedrooms. And I ask, how many kids do you have? I have 2. I said, what are the other 2 bedrooms for? Oh, those are for extra offices. Okay, is that a need or a want? Is that something you need today that's imperative that you have, otherwise you can't enjoy life? Or is it something that you can live with and then maybe expand over time, right? So most buyers, they get needs and wants together as one. And what we really want to do is separate the two because they are completely different, right? If a couple has 1 child, do they really need 5 bedrooms, right? If a couple has 1 child, they're coming from a townhouse to a single family home, I would think maybe 3 bedrooms. That'd be extra comfortable. 4 would be a bonus, right? Number of bathrooms. Obviously, you need at least 1, right? Usually, a lot of families need at least 2 toilets, right? So 1.5. Many families, if they're busy and active, they need 2 bathrooms, right? 2 showers. Right? So the baths come in different forms. Usually, it's a full bath or a half bath. A half bath meaning it doesn't have a shower, right, in one of the baths. Then is parking. We had a client that said, well, I need 2 parking. I need 2 parking. And I said to him, well, how many cars do you have? Well, I got 1. I said, what are you going to do with the other one? Well, it's just when friends come over. I said, okay, how often do they come over? Oh, I don't know, not that often. So, okay, so is that a need or a want? I guess that's a need. So just helping to understand what those needs are is important. The other was we had a client that said, I needed 2 parking because my wife and I both have cars. And they were looking for a townhouse. And the townhouses we were looking in their price range, there were only 1 parking. I said, so what if there was parking close enough by? And he said, oh, well, that'd work, right? And so having clarity on what a need and a want is really important to your ability to find what you're looking for. Security, really important as well. And there's a clear need and want on community and for laundry or in-unit laundry. There's some people that just will not do community laundry. That's a need, okay? There's some that says, well, I can do it, but I'd rather not. Well, then that'd be a want. Okay. Flooring. Flooring can come in many different forms, right? You've got carpet, you've got hardwood, you've got waterproof laminate flooring. By the way, that's really popular today. The waterproof laminate flooring is extremely popular. It's low maintenance. You can drop a whole gallon of water on it and it won't swell up. Really good type of flooring. The other is tile. Some people like tile. But the most popular is now is luxury vinyl plank flooring, waterproof. It's a little softer on your feet, not as cold, and you don't have the allergies. Many of our clients don't like carpet. If they like carpet, it's only in the rooms, mainly because of the ability for carpet to collect dust and contaminants, right? And then it's amenities, right? What kind of amenities do you want in your home? What kind of amenities do you want in your condo? If you're talking about a condo, you know, somebody says, well, I want a pool. And my first question is, how often do you swim? I said, oh, I don't swim. So what do you want a pool for? Oh, for my guests. Oh, okay. So how often do your guests come over? Oh, they don't come over very often. Okay, so now is that a need or a want? And so just taking a deeper dive to what's important matters most. If somebody says, many people say, well, I want to have a dog and I need a fence. Well, this house doesn't have a fence. Well, it's not hard to put up a fence, right? It's actually, chain link's very inexpensive. Other types of fences are more expensive. But in the scope of things, that's something that can be changed. Okay?
All right, great, Dan. Hey, listen, just want to shout out a quick reminder now for those of you on Facebook. I know you're not with us on our Zoom chat, but our client care manager, Carrie, had shared our phone number for the HARD team. So if you are interested, if you're hearing things that you like, you want to learn more or get a free private consultation, please give us a call. We're here in Honolulu at area code 808, and our phone number is 798-5549. So give us a ring, you guys out there on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And also, you can take a look at it later, Facebook. We're happy to have you join us any way you can, but we'd really like to help you out in person if possible, because we want to customize that strategy for you. And number 8, Dan, understanding this whole process, right? We understand it's a complicated process. It's got many moving parts. So let's get the part understood first.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. You know, we're with our clients for months at a time, right? Because the first step is to get pre-approved. We want to make sure that we understand where your top number is, where you cannot go beyond, right? And we start searching from there down. We also need to get pre-approved because in today's world with COVID, many sellers want only pre-approved buyers walking in their home. They don't want just looky-loo people, right? So there is a sensitivity out there for many folks. So our suggestion is step number 1 is get pre-approved so that you're comfortable with the number. And should we find something that day, now we can send a pre-approval letter, okay? That gives the seller the confidence that you have the financial ability to close. The next section is we're going to look at what your search parameters are. We'll take geographically first, how far east, how far west, right? And then we'll look at things like bedrooms, baths, all those needs and wants. We're going to throw that on there. And then we're going to put a search parameter that gets filtered through everything that's available. And we're going to look at that every single day. Right? Every single day, you're going to get a copy of that. We're going to get a copy of it when we'll look at it together. We also have a mobile app that Carrie will share later that can help you just as you're driving around. You just click the mobile app on your phone and you can see, hey, that one looks interesting. I wonder how much that is. It's a cool, fun app. I use it when I travel a lot because I'm always curious to find out what homes are worth in different states and communities. So yeah, the mobile app is something really, really fun to play with. And also can help you find your home. And then what we want to do is we want to take a look at them online first and then schedule private showings for the top ones that we want to see. Fortunately, we're now able to have open houses. Open houses are limited to 5 occupants at any one time. So when you go on a Sunday, if it's a busy one, you might be standing in line for a while. And that's why we suggest private showing. Right? We want to get into the home when you're not with other people, and we would prefer to spend that one-on-one with our clients to show you all the features of the home. As we go through these homes and we do the showings, what we're going to also share is really not only everything good, because that's easy to see, it's the things that are maybe not so good, right? And not to discourage you, though, just to be aware of what you're getting into, okay? We never want our client buying something that they're not comfortable with or don't know enough about. And so we're going to do a high due diligence there. And then we're going to submit the offer, work cooperatively with the seller's agent, and then we're going to negotiate it once we get it accepted, negotiate it all the way through closing, and take you all the way to the end. And that's kind of the process of the buying process.
And as you said, Dan, that would typically take 30, 40, 50 days. What would you say on average? Throughout the entire process of buying the home?
Well, keep in mind the closing process, escrow process, typically 45 days or so. And then depends on how long it's going to take to find what you're looking for. So you're looking at probably 2 months or more from the time you start to the time you actually move into your home. Now, some people will take months and months because their search parameters are so tight that today's market has got limited inventory, and the competition is very steep right now for single-family homes.
And how many homes would you say the average buyer might look at before they finally decide on the one that they want?
That depends. Right? That can range from 2 to 200. It just depends on the individual. Right? Our search parameters are going to be fairly tight so that we're going to look at ones that really matter most, and then we're going to narrow it down so that we can save some time, be more efficient on the shopping process. Today, also, there's more videos than we've ever had before. Right? On our team, we do agent walkthroughs, so that's easy to actually walk through the house prior to actually physically going. That'll save a lot of time as well. Right? So I believe that because of COVID, it's required agents to be use to harness technology more, such that it makes it easier in the buying experience.
Awesome. Okay, hey, we're moving on towards the end here. We got number 9 up. So once again, let's take a look at what the future holds for home values here on Oahu, maybe also across the country.
Yeah. So this chart shows you what's happened since 1987 to now on the island of Oahu. Right? And you see the blue line is single-family homes and the red line is condominiums. And they kind of mimic itself. What you're going to see is it's actually going to separate over the next few months. I'll get to that in a minute. But imagine back in 1987, the median sale price of a home was $168,000. Imagine in just 4 years, it goes up to, what's that, $380,000. Incredible. I'm sorry. That was more like, $380,000. Incredible growth there from an asset. And I always ask this to people, if you don't own real estate today, and if that asset approves 4 to 5% a year, you're going to gain enormous equity over time. How much can you actually save every month based on how much you make? And the gain of the growth of real estate is the fastest way to gain wealth. Right? You can't save yourself to this kind of wealth. Right? It's impossible to do so. So the wealthy people in the world are doing this by leveraging the low cost of money, buying an asset that grows over time, and that's how they're building wealth. Now, if you take a look at this chart, it peaked up in 91, took a bit of a dip, and then it rose again from 2000 to 2007. This asset grew 15 to 35% every single year after year after year. Imagine buying it at 250, and then imagine 7 years selling it at, what's that, 650. $400,000? That's incredible growth. Okay? You can't save yourself to that kind of money. It's impossible. Okay? What happened up here from 2007 to now, we've seen the largest expansion of values. Okay? And you see how steep this next chart is? This is updated to the most recent data. This is because there was 2 months of pent-up demand in February and March where people weren't buying homes. That pent-up demand, the 2 months of pent-up demand took 4 months to exhaust, actually 4 to 6 months to exhaust. We're almost there. So what happens is that demand is so strong that people are willing to pay more than the list price, actually more than the appraised value, in large numbers. I mean, we just had one, we sold one the other day that we got $140,000 over the appraised value, and the buyer wanted to buy it because he wanted to lock in on an extremely low interest rate. Right? And the options are lean. I mean, if you need to buy a home, you have to be positioned yourself well enough such that you can actually compete in a competitive market. What's going to happen over time is this is going to continue rising for a bit, but then it's going to level off and probably dip a bit, right? When will that happen? I really don't know. We do know that we expect inventory to rise in the near future due to the forbearance programs expiring and the increase of short sales and foreclosures. But what happens is, and that would be great for a buyer as long as the interest rates stay low. I mean, the most important factor of being a buyer today is that the interest rates, which is the lowest cost of money, is there available for you today. And we saw what happens when 1% rise of interest rate, right? You lose 11.8% of buying power.
So Dan, yeah, before we hit on number 10, just a quick question, because I've heard a number of people who said they really want to get invested in Oahu real estate, knowing what a great investment tool it has been over the years. However, the Honolulu market, as we know, is always one of the top 2 or 3 most expensive in the entire country here. So I'm just wondering what advice you might give, sometimes a younger buyer who doesn't have the cash in pocket to put down 20%, a full 20% down. What creative options might be available for someone in that position right now? Have you heard from lenders, any options?
Oh, yeah. You don't need 20% to buy a home. That's the way to get the best rate, right? The interest rate is to use 20% down. But you can buy it as low as 5 or 10% down. My suggestion is, if you're thinking of building wealth through real estate, you want to own something as soon as you can and lock in a low interest rate. Right? You want to lock that in, right? So if you wanted a 2-bedroom condo, but you can only afford a 1-bedroom, I'd get a 1-bedroom and just lock it in. And over time, that asset's going to grow, right? Over time. Now, you can do that with 5% down and do what they call a PMI, property mortgage insurance, right? It's a little bit higher cost to that borrowing, but bottom line is you only have what you have, right? Unless you can go borrow money from mom and dad or family, you only have what you have. Now, one of the things that we see real tight families do, and in fact, my mother did it for me multiple times, is that they took a home equity line of credit out of their house, right? So mom and dad has a house, it's got full equity, they take a home equity line of credit out, right? They borrow on that money in the short term. They give it to their kids to use it as a down payment. Now, know that when that happens, you want to make sure that money is seasoned, meaning it's in the bank long enough for the underwriters to see that as your money, not somebody else's. They will likely have to require you to have a gift letter saying that you're not responsible to pay it back. Now, in our case, we had the gift letter, and the promise between my parents is I'm going to just pay them back. I mean, I'm going to make them 100% whole. All the expenses of borrowing on that money, that's on me, right? And so I put a plan together to pay it back. Every single time I borrowed money, I paid it back. But what it did was, Bob, it allowed me to get into a home that I couldn't afford to get into at the time, right? Knowing that I'm going to have debt that I got to pay back. Well, thank goodness that was available to me, because each time I bought a home, I bought up, right? I bought a bigger home. I bought a home of more value. And we bought a location that I really desire, right? And so that is another creative way to do it for those families who are close enough, tight enough to be able to do that, and you have the ability to make sure you pay it back, right? That's the important part, pay it back.
Gotcha. Great stuff. I appreciate that, Dan. Okay, so we're about ready to wind up here. The last issue is that once you get into a home ownership situation, one needs to determine exactly how they will hold title. So help us understand that better, Dan.
Yeah, so when you buy real estate, you're gonna something's gonna hold title to it. So if it's single person, obviously a lot of times it's tenants by severalty, right? You got one person, that's easy. Now, if you have 2 or more people that are maybe not married, So we have also an investment with a good friend of mine. Actually, we've got 3 investment properties with different people, right? And so we have a tendency in common in that, where you have 2 or more people, they can be equal or unequal shares, and that works as well too. Joint tenancy, where they're equal in indivisible ownership and has a right of survivorship, meaning once one passes away, it automatically goes to the next person, okay? Tenants by entirety, you have 2 or more equal and undivisible properties with the right of survivorship as well. But what that does is it protects you from creditors, right? Now, this is only if you're married. So it's only available, tenants by entirety is only if you are married, also with civil union partners and reciprocal beneficiaries, right, in today's world. And lastly is the tenants by entirety in a trust. This is probably the most common for most of our clients, that because if they have wealth and assets, they want to put those assets in a trust, right? What that is it's a joint trust. You can have 2 separate trusts or 1 joint trust. And each attorney is going to have a different approach to how they're going to recommend you doing that. In our case, we have 2 separate trusts individually, and they're, the interest is equal and indivisible. And if I pass away, it goes straight to my wife. If my wife passes away, it goes straight to me. There's no problem with that. And more importantly, if something happens to one of us, the creditors want to come after us, it protects us from the creditors, right? Again, you do have to be married, living in the property together. Okay. So those are the kind of ways that when you buy a home, escrow is going to ask you, how do you want to vest title? Right? How do you want to vest the title? And you're going to have an answer to that. Oh, this kind of gives you a rough idea. I would strongly recommend also seeing your your attorney, and see if he has any different approaches to that that you want to consider.
Thanks, Dan. And so here, appreciate the top 10 things that buyers want to know about. Dan, thank you for all that great information. At this point, I wanted to invite our teammate, Carrie Scoville, Client Care Manager, to talk a little bit more about the Ihara team. Carrie?
Absolutely, Bob. Hey, and before we do that, how do people get in contact with you directly?
Oh, my phone number here, again, I want to share out a couple phone numbers. So get your pen or your notebook or your device ready. But my phone number is 808-354-1686. Or feel free to call us. You can get a private consultation after the webinar. Or if you're on Facebook watching the replay, call us at 808-798-5549.
Awesome, Bob. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, guys. That was lots of really great information. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. And as we come to a close, let's talk about a little bit about who we are. And with the Ihara team, of course, that's our real estate wing. But Dan and Julie Ihara really found that there's lots of needs, different needs for everybody out there, and built a complete solution. And so, of course, with the Ihara team in real estate, they found the need for people that and seniors wanting to make a move and transition over a lifetime. They just built up a lot of stuff in their house, and as they transition to downsizing and maybe even a little safer environment, they built senior move managers. Now, a lot of people were then saying, hey, I'm not a senior, but I still need that. I still need that help. I've got a lot of stuff. And of course, Declutter Hawaii was born. And so our team at Senior Move Managers and Declutter Hawaii, they are super caring, compassionate, and helpful. As you are downsizing, maybe you want to keep that previously owner-occupied home and rent that out, right? And so we have high property management there to serve you at a high level. When you are listing your home with us, we definitely, nowadays, everybody's on their iPad or on their phone, right? So it has to look good. Somebody has to connect with it emotionally. And so that's where we believe in staging and the value of staging. And so Stage Hawaii is there to help you. And of course, lastly, our nonprofit 501c Silver Spoons. And so as a complete solution, all of those companies, proceeds of those sales do go into Silver Spoons, and that's to help seniors in Hawaii that need all these services, but they don't have the means to take care of themselves. And so we really feel passionate about supporting our community. And so we're super blessed to have Silver Spoons as a part of the complete solution. So lots of needs, but we're your one-stop shop to take care of everything at the same level of service and compassion. We do have upcoming webinars. We'd love for you to join us. Upcoming Building Wealth by Investing in Real Estate next week. It's almost the end of October. Crazy. And on the 29th, 7 ways, before you load up on sugar and Halloween, whatever you're doing out there, 7 ways a buyer can cancel. Protecting yourself as a buyer. We like to end our webinars, as always, with our mission statement as to honor God by serving others with the highest level of competency, care, and compassion with uncompromising integrity. So hope all is well. We'd love for you to connect with us. If you are wondering, this was lots of great general information, but what does that mean for you? Give us a call. We'd love to connect, help you take some next steps with a free strategy session. You can chat with us through Facebook, on the Zoom, or give us a call at those numbers that Bob has mentioned. Of course, we're going to send you a feedback form if you joined us today. We'd love to continue to learn and grow and sharpen ourselves by your feedback. So we'll be emailing you a feedback form. You can find a little bit more about our upcoming webinars and, of course, recordings on our website, thehorrorteamhawaii.kw.com, in this case, /webinars, and you'll find our upcoming schedule. And as Dan mentioned, some of those virtual walkthroughs on our site as well. Keep up with our featured listings. It's a really active site. And I think we have just a couple more pictures here on what we're doing.
Nope. Actually, no, that was it.
That was it. Well, wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, we hope the sun is shining. It's a beautiful Saturday out there. If the sky is not shining as brightly and as warm as it is here, you should be here. Let us help you with that.
Sounds good.
Boys, any last words? Julie, making sure us guys are staying in line, and any last words for everybody out there?
No, we just hope this was of value to you, and if it was, please share that with people that you know, friends and family, on social media, Facebook and Instagram, and as well as just send them an invite to the next event. Because we have these, I think we have 2 more this month, right? Next week. So our goal is to help people change lives, and as we do that, we really help them reach their goals with their families. So thank you all, everybody. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to providing more value to you. Aloha.
Aloha, everybody.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye-bye.